But had the Browns veteran voluntary mini camp take place here just a week ago. And after that voluntary mini camp, Mary Kay Cabot is reporting that, Todd Monken is kind of hinting, the new Browns head coach, that Deshaun Watson has emerged with an edge over Shedeur Sanders, and he has an inside track to be named QB1. Mary Kay adds, quote, I think they should declare him QB1 ASAP and let the first team offense start to cook. There's no time to waste. I disagree. I think the Browns and Todd Monken would be wasting their time with Deshaun Watson as their starting quarterback. I think everything that we've seen from him over the past 3-4 years, and there's a lot we haven't seen because he's off back-to-back torn Achilles, he's done. I think Shedeur Sanders should be QB1 after his play from last year. He wasn't great, but he was a rookie. He didn't have a lot of help. You got a new head coach. Like, what are you wasting your time with Deshaun Watson? I know it's the end of April, Brad, and I know so much could change, but if that's the Browns' plan to start the season, Deshaun Watson's going to be your starting quarterback, you might as well book him for a top 5 draft pick again next year because they're going to be terrible because at this point, he's terrible.
Yeah, that's entirely a fair perspective. Last time we saw him for even a fair chunk of the NFL regular season, to go way back to 2024, in which he played 7 games that year. And he finished well outside the top 30 in a multitude of completion percentage categories. We're talking about deep ball completion percentage. We're talking about overall adjusted completion percentage, under pressure completion percentage. He was no bueno, mi amigos. Although he was decent inside the red zone, completed 61.1% of his red zone passing attempts. But, one of the main calling cards is Deshaun Watson and his mobility, right? His ability to read, react, and get some of those opportunistic scrambles and chew up some yardage on the ground and move the chains as a result. But you're coming off 2 blown Achilles. Is he going to be out there with a peg leg? How much movement does he really have at this point in his career? And he has regressed sharply in terms of his overall accuracy, a far cry from the player that he once was with the Houston Texans. And, you look at Mike Clay at ESPN, as a friend of mine, an esteemed fantasy football analyst. He does a lot of projections. And right now, this is a projection he has for Deshaun Watson this season. On 288 pass attempts, he has him for just shy of 2,000 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, running for 150 yards and 1 rushing touchdown. That stinks to high heaven. It really does. I'm in agreement with him. I think Shedeur Sanders should be the guy under center. And I've been highly critical of Shedeur Sanders in the past, but he proved me wrong last year. Greatly exceeded my expectations. Though he is still rough around the edges. But Watson ain't got nothing left in the tank. I know the motivation for Cleveland and why they're justifying possibly going to Deshaun Watson to start the season because they're paying him Brewster's millions. They're on the hook with one of the worst contracts ever penned in NFL history. So they got to say to themselves, well, we're paying the guy gobs of money. We got to make sure we get something out of it and see if he's got anything left in the tank. But right now, he's a shell of his former self. I understand they have made a lot of investments in that offense with Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston to go along with Jerry Jeudy, to go along with Cedric Tillman. I love Harold Fannin, a do-it-all tight end, kind of a joker-type guy. I can beat you underneath routes, beat you outside the numbers, occasionally even lines up. In the backfield, they put him in motion. Very creative with his overall involvement in that offense. But Deshaun Watson is nothing but dust at this point in his career. And I think Monken and the coaching staff will soon come to realize it. Hell, Pat, I'm in a super flex league for fantasy football. That's a 2-quarterback setup. I wouldn't even pay a lousy $1 in my auction draft to roster Deshaun Watson. That's how bad of an upcoming season I think he's going to have.
Yeah, I agree. The phone number to join the show is 310-840-4910. Do you think Deshaun Watson can prove that he's still got something left, that he can maybe extract even a fraction of his prime playing days with the Houston Texans from 2019 and 2020? Or do you agree with me and Brad? Do you think that Shedeur Sanders in year 2 has more promise, has more potential, has more talent, has more consistency and durability than Deshaun Watson. Because it's one thing if you think Deshaun Watson is still more talented. But again, all of a sudden, you look up and Deshaun Watson is 30 years old. He's going to be 31 right when the season begins. And he's coming off, like you said, back-to-back Achilles tears. Now, I know that now, with modern medicine, we've seen what Jason Tatum has done. We've seen Kirk Cousins come back off the torn Achilles and look somewhat okay. Not great, but he's also a couple of years older. Look, Deshaun Watson is like you mentioned it, the contract that they gave him, $230 million fully guaranteed. And what Jimmy Haslam said about a year ago about Deshaun Watson, where it's like the same way that Brandon Beane and the Bills spoke about Keon Coleman, speaking about him as if he's like not on the team anymore, as if they're going to get rid of him. And now all of a sudden, a couple months later, they're like, oh no, Keon Coleman's got a great chance to be a great receiver for this team. Jimmy Haslam basically talking. He's like, yeah, that was just a massive mistake. You could put that all on me, signing Deshaun Watson, trading for him and paying him the contract. And now he's going to be the starting quarterback here a year later. And Jimmy Haslam talking about, oh yeah, he's coming in fresh. He's got a great mind. Like, what happened here? Did him actually tearing his Achilles, is that the best thing for him because we didn't get to watch him stink up the joint in 2025? Then all of a sudden, like we flash back, we have amnesia, we go back 5 years, and we're like, oh yeah, that's actually possible that this guy could still play like how he used to with the Houston Texans. Absolutely not. And you already paid him the money. He's already fully guaranteed it. So what, it's not like you have to play him. You're going to pay him no matter what. So they've got void years in his contract after this. This is the make or break season for him, but it's going to be a break. You and I are both in the agreement here because he just doesn't have it anymore. And at this point, Cleveland would be better off investing their resources and their time and the starting reps to Shedeur Sanders to see just how good he can be. And if they get him in the 5th round last year after he historically slid in the draft, maybe you're not going to be the next Tom Brady, but maybe he could be the next, late round draft pick. He could be the next Brock Purdy, right? I mean, that's the goal, is to get to a freaking Super Bowl. And I promise you this much, Brad, the Browns, they're not particularly close, in my opinion, with either of these guys, but they are closer with Shedeur Sanders than they are to Deshaun Watson. The good thing is we're not going to have to wait long to get an answer because Todd Monken reportedly wants to name a starter by the end of their mandatory minicamp in the second week of June.
Yeah, and I think it's an inevitability at this point based on Mary Kay Cabot's fantastic reporting. One of the best beat writers of the biz is Mary Kay. And I'm envious that you're going to be able to talk to her a little bit later on in the program. She's spot on. And with her reporting that I think inevitably they are going to make the decision here in short order that Watson is going to be the guy. Honestly, I kind of agree with making a decision sooner rather than later and not Richard around. Let your mind wander where I'm trying to go with there. And making a choice and really drag this thing all the way into training camp. I got to set a pecking order now, establish a precedent, and just ride with it until the wheels come flying off. The way I look at Deshaun Watson is this. And Pat, I don't know what kind of griller you are. I don't know what kind of, if you maybe have a blacktop grill, maybe you're a guy that does like a gas grill. I'm an old school charcoal guy. I got a Weber, that egg-shaped classic black Weber right now in my backyard. So let's use an analogy with grilling top of mind. It's almost the summer season. You get the fires started. The coals are nice and white. You got the burger ready. You throw the patties on. It's wonderfully formed. And you have a beer. And you have another beer. And maybe you slam a third beer and you're losing track of time. You open that sucker up, and oh boy, it's a hockey puck. It's a wee bit overcooked. That's exactly what Deshaun Watson is. He is completely cooked at this point in his career, and I think he's going to be lucky to even start like maybe 3 games this season. So let me toss it back to you, Pat, and I'm going to set an over-under. Deshaun Watson, 4.5 games started this upcoming season for the Brownies. What say you? You know where I stand. I'm taking the under.
Yeah, by the way, tremendous analogy. And I have a Weber, but it's your classic, square hood, liquid propane gas grill. Nothing crazy about it. Nothing fancy. I'm not this expert griller Bobby Flay with the egg, and it was like
I'm not
a
either.
slow roast, smoke my meats. I don't have like a charcoal oven. I just got your standard grill. I throw the ribs, I throw the chicken, I throw the steaks on there, the burgers, and a little veggies. Roast some peppers on the top rung, couple hot dogs. How you doing? Have a day. Tremendous analogy by you. Over under 4.5 games started by Deshaun Watson. Oof. Look, 4 games would be a quick hook. He'd have to be really bad, or he'd have to get hurt again. And I guess if you think he gets hurt
It's
again,
on
you
the
could play
table.
your. Yeah, it is on the table because, again, it's not just the torn Achilles, but remember his last season ended with the shoulder surgery as well, with the shoulder injury. So, and he wasn't very good before he got hurt. So, yeah, he definitely could get hurt again in the first 4 games. If he just flat out stinks to the high heavens, could they ditch him in the first 4 games? I guess it's possible. I think it's more likely they give him about 6 games. And we'll find out. We've got the NFL schedule release coming in about 2 weeks. We'll have a big announcement coming up on that in the next few days here. But I'll go over, but not by much, because I don't think he's going to be good. And I think the Browns will be looking for another answer, and they're going to turn it to Shedeur Sanders and say, part 2, here you go, kid. Let's see what you got this time, this go around, with a new head coach, new play caller, and Todd Monken. And you got Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston, who you mentioned. You got the great Harold Fannin and Quinshon Judkins, who had a great rookie season. I think if you've improved the weapons for these quarterbacks, I trust Shedeur Sanders that he is more capable of running with it and doing something with it than Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And again, I've been highly critical of Shedeur Sanders. I thought he was a bit of a punchline getting drafted even in the 5th round a couple of seasons ago. And I'm like, man, this guy is going to be an absolute disaster. And he kind of was at first, but he improved significantly and really progressed quite quickly and was somewhat suitable. I'm not saying he was an all-pro by any stretch of the imagination or Pro Bowl selection, any of that nonsense. He was just a guy that kind of got the job
I don't know
done.
how.
I know he was an absolute punchline, by the way, that he was a Pro Bowl selection. That's why the Pro Bowl is one of the most idiotic all-star, events in all of pro sports. But I digress. The other key factor in the success of this Cleveland Browns offense, Pat, is the health of Quinshon Judkins. Coming off that gruesome lower body injury, is he going to be able to come back and have an excellent training camp, not skip a beat, and a guy that can deliver instantaneously beginning week 1. Your backup running back there is Dylan Sampson, more of a change of pace option. Again, I like the investments they have made in this offense. I think the Cleveland Browns absolutely crushed it in this year's NFL draft. We talked about it last night. A team deserving of a high grade because they, fulfilled a lot of areas of need. Now we have to see if these guys can go out there and perform. They are in a ripe situation. Maybe the best offensive situation we've seen with this franchise in a number of years. But that key position, quarterback, is just a giant, glaring question mark. I think Todd Monken is going to have a come-to-Jesus moment quickly. That's why I like the under 4.5 starts by week 5, week 6. I think it's going to be Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel rest of season.
Yeah, 310-840-4910. Again, who do you think the Browns starting quarterback should be heading into the season? According to Mary Kay Cabot, who we're going to talk to later on in the show, it's looking like it's Deshaun Watson. And, here's the other thing, Brad. It is so easy to look like you've still got it when you're not even in pads and it's April and May and you're going through the earliest stages of the playbook. Yeah. It is a whole other thing to put the pads on, to be in the pocket, under pressure, to have the speed and the quickness to get rid of it when you haven't seen game action in a year and a half, basically 2 years by the time we start this season. And now you're 31. The last time you played, you were like 28, 29, and you throw in double Achilles tear where he tore it again, recovering from it. Along with everything else that happened, all the sexual assault, cases that definitely played an impact on his mentals. Again, you mentioned Shedeur and how much of a punchline he became. And, in a lot of the press conferences where, it might have been over dramatized, but, some of the things he said absolutely didn't help his case during the season when he was just looking to get some chances, looking to get an opportunity to play. And then you have in training camp and in the preseason some comments from him about Dylan Gabriel getting misconstrued and overplayed. But look, when he got on the field, the first couple games were terrible. Then he kind of, he was able to tread water enough to keep his head above water and play some decent football. Again, not good, not great. The weapons around him were terrible. The Browns' season was lost. So I think, again, there's a lot of people that would love to see Shedeur Sanders fail. There's a lot of people that would love to see Shedeur Sanders crush it. And I think there's probably a same amount of polarization with Deshaun Watson. I would say much more people want to see Deshaun Watson fail. I'm in that boat. I'm not going to lie about it.
Me too.
And so I root for Shedeur Sanders for that reason, but I also root for the reason because I think you've got a kid that's, a decade younger and proved in his rookie season that he can stay afloat. I think he's going to be the better option for Browns at quarterback this year. 310-840-4910 is the number to join the show. You're listening to BetMGM Tonight with Pat Boyle and Brad Evans. We're sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting your business vehicles 24/7. See if you can save at progressivecommercial.com. All right, we'll take your phone calls, we'll take your texts, and we'll take your tweets. You can tweet the show at BetMGM Tonight. When we come back, what do you think's the better option for Browns at quarterback, Deshaun Watson or Shedeur Sanders?